Hello, and welcome to our session at the 2022 OSEP Leadership and Project Directors Conference. First, let me provide this disclaimer. The contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2022 OSEP conference. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Welcome to our session, Families as Partners, a Strategy in the Journey Toward Equity. During this session, you'll learn about some practical strategies that are being used by our colleagues in the state of Massachusetts, including the Department of Education, Office of Special Education Planning and Policy, and also the Parent Training and Information Center for the state of New Jersey, the Federation for Children with Special Needs. We have as many of you are aware, your state performance plan and annual performance report require expanded and representative stakeholder engagement. This offers us a new opportunity for more earnest efforts in engaging families as partners in the journey toward equity. State education agencies, parent centers, TA&D centers can create natural partnerships for achieving representative, authentic, and effective stakeholder engagement. During this presentation, you'll hear the why and the how. Joining us are Jamie Camacho, Pam Norris, and myself. I'm Deborah Jennings from the National Center for Systemic Improvement and also from SPAN Parent Advocacy Network. Jamie, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jamie Camacho. I'm the Director of Special Education Planning and Policy for the Department of Education in Massachusetts.
Thank you. And Pam, welcome.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Pam Nurse, and I'm the Executive Director of the Federation for Children with Special Needs, which is the parent center in Massachusetts.
Thank you. So let's get started with our conversation. We're going to talk about a few questions, and you'll get an opportunity to share with our listeners and watchers how things are working in Massachusetts. Our first question is for you, Jamie. What are some strategies that the Department of Education for Massachusetts is using that you can share about your processes?
First of all, collaboration with families needs to be part of the work that you do every single day. It can't be an activity that you do just because it's a requirement for the SPP APR. So for example, we have regular meetings with our partner organizations that we meet with them about policy decisions, planning of different events. We also talk about the SPP APR as we're required to do, but we're also talking about some of the concerns that are brought to them by families in our state. It's also important, I think, to look at the strengths that we all bring to our partnerships. So for example, one of the things that we did when we were looking at the SPP APR this year, we looked at DESE creating deliverables that were going to provide some information to families. So we knew one of our strengths is we have a lot of the content knowledge about the indicators. So we created web pages for the indicators. We created quick reference guides for the indicators, PowerPoint presentations, and some surveys for target setting. Our partner organization, Pam and her staff, helped us to really make sure that we were gearing our print material and our presentations to our audience, which is the families in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they bring to our partnerships expertise and experiences that we don't necessarily have, which I think made our collaboration and what we were able to provide the families in Massachusetts much higher quality and much more relative to what they were really looking for, which is answering their questions about their own children. And the last thing is I really think it's important that a strategy is to make sure that you really do understand who the students and the families are in your Commonwealth or in your state. So we frequently put things out in multiple languages. We know what those top languages are. We know how to communicate best with our families, what types of modes of communication work. And we also know that we need to be flexible and responsive to their needs and their changing needs, particularly coming out of the post-pandemic times.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I love the way that you talk about making sure that families have opportunities to really learn about how the system should work for them, and that your communication strategies really address the needs of the variety and diversity of the families in the state of Massachusetts. Pam, how can parent centers, that includes parent training and information centers and community parent resource centers, help states create meaningful stakeholder engagement with families?
Oh, thanks very much. I think first of all, we need to recognize that parent centers are family engagement organizations. We are family engagement centers. That is what we're all about. And the work of educating, empowering, engaging families is integral to all parent centers and is a really key part of family engagement. We define family engagement as the intentional, authentic, respectful, and equal partnership between practitioners and families that lead to positive results for children and youth. And the state of Massachusetts has created a family engagement framework that is not only something that DESE, our Department of Education, Jamie and staff have embraced, but it's something that many state agencies were part of, along with us as a family center, as a parent center, and many other organizations were involved in creating. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we are providing train the trainers to educators, to other state agencies on what these frameworks mean and really how to make them come alive. And one of the reasons that we're able to do this is that we have really worked on establishing regular communication, building trust, ensuring that there's lots of follow-up and follow-through with our concerns. I know Jamie and her staff are very open to hearing about the concerns that families bring to us. And they are, they also in turn will be able to say, this is what we can do. Sometime, here's something we're going to take back and work on. Here's something we need a little more information on, but we know that when we bring something that we'll be able to have a conversation about the best way of moving forward. I think part of what made our efforts, in particular, when we think of our family engagement efforts for our SPP APR initiative to be gathering family input, was that the project was truly co-designed with both DESE and the Federation. We worked together. There was a real give and take where, Jamie's team coming in and talking about the content that they felt was important to be putting out, from my staff talking about what they felt the best way of bringing that to families. And we were able to really come up with a design that worked well. And this process of co-design, where it wasn't just them coming to us saying, here's what's going to happen, and get some families there. We really worked best on how to bring this alive, how to get the best family input. And that not only helped with the project that we're working on, but it's something that builds trust in the long run. And I think with that, I really appreciate DESE's commitment to be providing translation and interpretation. We want to make sure we're able to reach out to all families and that we have the tools in order to do that.
Thank you, Pam. I am really excited about how you're highlighting the importance of that relationship and how co-creation and co-design of materials and anything that is going to be facing families is really a critical part of the work that you're doing. And of course, having a robust framework with really a clear definition for family engagement and the goals and the structures that everyone should be sort of following and looking towards are definitely some strategies that many states could begin to implement. So my next question is, why is equity important for meaningful family engagement? We've talked about your family engagement activities, that are sort of general, reaching everybody, trying to bring everyone into the conversations. But let's sort of dig down and talk about, what does this look like in Massachusetts as it relates to equity, considering the diversity of cultures, ethnicities, languages, et cetera, that we find in your state?
Okay,
Pam, would you like to go first?
yeah, if I can jump in. Our state's population is becoming more and more racially and ethnically diverse. 25% of families now speak a language other than English at home. And this diversity is certainly reflected in the population that the Federation serves. And we know that research shows that culturally responsive practices help improve student outcomes. It's essential for our students to do the best that they can. But I also want to flip the question and ask, why is family engagement important for equity? So it's really critical if we're going to be looking at, how we're going to be pushing equity forward in our schools, in our communities. We need to be elevating the voices of families who are not always heard. The Federation has long prioritized outreach to multilinguistic and multicultural communities. We have an outreach staff who speak the languages and are members of Spanish-speaking, Portuguese, Chinese, and Haitian Creole communities. We also have an outreach specialist to engage the Black community in Massachusetts, and we work with cultural brokers in the Vietnamese community. And our priority is really to build capacity within these communities for family engagement. And building that capacity is critical for families to be able to engage with schools. And it's also critical for schools to engage with families who are often marginalized. And this means that we're constantly asking, who are we reaching? How are we providing the tools to ensure that we're able to engage those families? And we just ask those questions every step of the way. Are families who are homeless able to benefit from our programs? Are families who don't speak English able to benefit? And just ensuring that both the equity and the family engagement are really going hand in hand.
That's so important, that family engagement is critical to achieving equity. I love the way that you flipped that question for us. Jamie, what's your perspective from the State Department?
Well, equity is certainly important for family engagement, or family engagement is also important for equity. If we're going to really address the opportunity achievement gaps in our state, then we really need to be able to make sure that we're meeting all of our learners' needs and all of our families' needs. And so, as Pam mentioned, we need to be sure that we're creating opportunities for real, deliberate strategies that we're going to be implementing, or we have been implementing, to make sure that we're really addressing those historically marginalized populations. It doesn't happen if you don't plan. It doesn't happen if you're not organized, you're not collaborating, and you're really trying to be really strategic and deliberate to make sure you're getting to all of our students and our families, and not just those that sometimes are the easiest to reach. So I think that's really critical. I think it's also important because equity brings, in family engagement, it brings an opportunity for us as a state agency to learn and to see some perspective, particularly when we're developing policy, to be able to hear from families how it impacts them, how it impacts their own children, the stories of what this actually looks like, the policy to practice piece. I think that helps us make better policy decisions. So I think that's critical. And I also think it also improves outcomes for students, and Pam mentioned this, and the experiences that students have through their education when they have family members that are able to actively participate in their education, advocate for their own children, feel comfortable in a school environment, know how to navigate a school and in a district. And without those things in place, and which, as I mentioned, takes really clear planning and strategizing so that we're really meeting the population, all of our students and all of our families, we're not going to be successful in the things that we actually need to do.
So family engagement is important for success, particularly success in achieving equity, including families in your discussions. I love that you said it's an opportunity for the SEA to learn, building your capacity through engaging with families in order to better understand how your systems are impacting families, particularly those families who have the greatest needs. So moving on, how can state education and agencies and parent centers work with that commitment to equity in mind that you've discussed?
So I think the first thing is we need to really think about how we communicate. So we've talked a little bit about translations. We need to make sure that we have interpreters. I think these are clear strategies of things that, and they were lessons actually for us. So some of the lessons we learned as we were going through some of our family engagement activities is, translations take a little bit of time to actually make happen. So we need to plan accordingly for that and make sure that we have the right people as part of our meetings for appropriate translations for our families. I think also it's important to, and I kind of talked a little bit about this, but understanding data. And I think that's two pieces. It's understanding that data also has a story that goes with it. It's just not the numbers that we look at when we're looking at the SPP APR and we're looking at the indicators. It's about the how, why those things are happening, the root causes. And we learn a lot about that by having conversations with families. It's also about helping families understand what the data means. We make a lot of decisions. We say data-driven decision making, but it's difficult sometimes when we're not providing that information on what the data means to families in a way that they can understand that. And so that's an important thing that I think we need to be doing. And again, those clear strategies for those underserved populations, those populations that really truly have the most significant needs.
Data-driven decision-making in partnership with families. That's very innovative, and really appreciating that families have the capacity and the interest in understanding the data and being a part of those conversations. Pam, how about from your perspective?
Thanks very much, Deborah. So certainly, I support everything that Jamie said. And Jamie and her team have an initiative called the Iep Improvement Project that I think is a really good example of how what we're trying to do is to really look at the IEP process from soup to nuts, and actually, starting even in general education, and all through the process. And we are looking at the ways to be bringing together, data, family engagement, equity in terms of curriculum and school culture as all parts of the process that need to come together. And the Federation is, part of this process. And, part of what we're doing is to ensure that the family voice is part of that team. And we're working with a group of, we call them early adopters, a group of districts and school systems who are coming together to really be sharing ideas and strategies on how to make sure that we are how we are using, data, curriculum, family engagement, and school culture from an equity lens. So I think certainly some of the things, we always start with making translation and interpretation a priority. That's important, but that's really, really just a first step. And what we're looking to do is to really build capacity, building capacity, the SEA helping the schools to build capacity to work with families, and for us to be helping families build the capacity to be working with their school systems. And together we can really be looking to move from, traditional parent engagement to a really culturally responsive family engagement, and look at opportunities for school staff and parents to be building those authentic relationships as equal partners. And I think that that's a really key piece, to be bringing in that concept of co-design. And it's not just something that parents are told show up at this time, but we're really bringing in their ideas, we're engaging them, in the community at times that they're available in their language, as ways of trying to really build those authentic relationships. I think that, DESE also has been very, very helpful in supporting our efforts, through contracts to be building that capacity of parents. We have, and I want to just mention two separate contracts that we have with Jamie's department. One is to be providing parent training and special education family engagement, and really kind of diving deep into, how do we ensure that we are building that capacity? And, and in that way, we're really helping, and, we're able to have a lot of back and forth with Jamie's team on what's working and what we need to improve on. Another project that we've just engaged on recently is that Jamie's and her team supported us hiring an outside evaluator to look at our programs. And what this evaluator is helping us do, or has helped us do, is to really develop a process where we can connect the demographic information of the parents that we're working with the evaluation, so we can really see who our programs are benefiting. And are there different populations who are maybe not finding our work as useful or relevant? Are there places that we know that we need to improve? Because we know that one size doesn't fit all. And for example, we're just starting to get this information, and one of the things that we're finding is that a lot of racially and ethnically diverse populations are not filling out our evaluations. So we're now, one of our first steps is diving deep to figure out what are those barriers and how can we fix that? And what we're really looking forward to, getting this information so that we can be ensuring that we are doing our best to be reaching out and to be, engaging all families in the state.
Now, Jamie, we've heard just some really wonderful and robust activities that are happening. What can SEAs do to sustain this commitment to inclusion and to equity work?
Yeah, so I can't say this word enough, but first of all, planning. Start small. Start with things that you already have in place, frameworks that you have in place, regular meeting structures that you have, things that you're already doing, and make this part of what you're already doing, and then build it out. But clear strategic planning, developing strong systems that are going to support this in the long term. So it's not something that's just a once type of thing for, like I said, the SPP APR. Developing your staff, your relationships with your partnerships with other organizations like PAMS, and leveraging those partnerships. I think that's the most important thing. We all have different strengths, we all have different experiences, and really taking this as an opportunity to utilize each other's strengths and experiences to really create something that is better than what we'd be doing on our own. And I think that in itself is inspiring, and even though it's a lot of work, it's going to motivate you to want to continue moving forward with this.
Thank you. And as we are closing this session, I know that everyone who is participating in this session right now and listening, they're going to want to listen to this a number of times and to really capture all of the great strategies and ideas and thoughts that the two of you have shared. Can you just say one thing that parent centers would like state agencies to know about authentic engagement of diverse groups? Can you do that for me, Pam?
Yes, family engagement is not bonus work when it comes to our children's education. It's the heart of the work.
Love it. And Jamie, what would you say to parent centers about working with their state education agency?
We would not be able to do the work that we do without our partnerships with our family centers. First of all, parents are the first educators in their children's lives, and they bring a perspective that we certainly can't have on our own. And so I really look forward to the work that we're going to continue doing together.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. We look forward to hearing more about Massachusetts and their work in terms of family engagement in meaningful and authentic ways. I'd like to just acknowledge the help that we've received on this session, that's our support that we're receiving from Eliana Tardio, who is part of the NCSI staff, and share just a little bit about NCSI. If you're not familiar with NCSI, it's one of the technical assistance centers funded by OSEP to help states transform their systems in order to improve outcomes for children and youth. And NCSI provides a number of opportunities for state leaders to be involved in its technical assistance activities. So as we close, I want to thank our presenters for this session. Thank you, Jamie Camacho and Pam Norse. It was an excellent discussion. And I'd also like to read the disclaimer one more time. Please know that the contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2022 OSEP conference. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Thank you once again, and thank you to each of you who has joined this session.